Thank you guys for joining me for another episode of Keeping It Real with America's Supermom. I am so excited because we are going to have a special guest today. Dr. Ivan Misner will be joining us. But in the meantime, I have some of my favorite people in my network who are joining me. And we are going to talk a few minutes about the importance of networking and just uh, telling everybody a little bit about who they are and what they do. I think it's so important to have a good network, a good team of people behind the scenes to help you stay grounded as you move forward in your business. So, first, we're going to hear from Jonathan.
All right. Well, if it weren't for networking, I wouldn't know you. So I greatly appreciate that. My name is Jonathan Howard. I own and operate Success on Social. I help businesses tell their story on social media. And I treat social media like a networking opportunity, building relationships and helping people grow based on those relationships. So that's what I do.
Awesome. Laquita.
Hi, it is such a pleasure to be here. And I agree with Jonathan. Lachelle, you are one of my favorite people on this planet. So thank you so much for having me. I am Laquita Parks, and I am the owner and publisher for PayProV pay-per-view publishing company. And PayProV means pain, progress, victory, because without pain, there's no progress, and without progress, there's no victory. So we help people take their stories from a thought to a realization, and networking is such an awesome opportunity. And I am so pleased to be among this circle because it makes me feel like I'm not alone in my business. So I'm able to collaborate and gain knowledge collectively and individually and growing in the process. So it's a pleasure to connect with you and Jonathan and Paul and Barbara. So I am so excited to be here. And, you know, being a part of a team means that you get to have everybody's ear. So if you're doing something and it's like, hey, is this right? And you say, oh, you know, you're on the right track, or no. You need to go back to the drawing board. So it's awesome being a part of this network. So thank you for having me.
You are welcome. And we have Paul.
Thank you for having me on. And network is the key to success. A lack of a network is the key to failure. So my background is former television news reporter. I've been a content creator for 30 years for Fortune 500 companies. Now I'm launching New Way Forward to help people over 50 reimagine this phase of life, find work, new ways to do income. And networking is the whole thing when you're aspiring for something, because it's going to be that network that's going to help you find that job, find those opportunities. And not just for people over 50. My 2 adult sons are living their dreams, and it's been their networks and networking that's done it. And a point that was brought up earlier too, whatever you're trying to do, there are people out there that are trying to do the same thing or have done it or can be your accountability buddy and support. And so networks, if you think about it, it's all human connection, everybody helping and supporting each other in various ways, shapes, or form. Without it, you fail. With it, you can succeed amazingly.
Awesome. And last but not least, we have Barbara.
Thank you, America's Supermom. I am so glad to be a part of this wonderful platform with these amazing panelists. My name is Barbara Beckley, and my brand is the Diamond Factor LLC. That's my business. And what I do is I teach and help people understand their PPD, their purpose, their passion, their drive in life, because that's the most important thing. With all networking, you have to understand who you are and what your gifts and your talents are. I also like to, especially for women, to help give them exposure through media, social media, helping them in that area, also helping on a new platform, a part of E360 TV, my show, The Diamond Factor Experience with Barbara Beckley. I bring people on to make them shine on that show. So it's all about helping others to shine in their business and their personal life. And the biggest thing I like about networking, just to add, is everybody said everything's so awesome, but I'm going to say just a little turn of that. I like networking so people tell me things that I might be doing wrong, because I'm always looking to grow and to expand. So, you know, Quita and we've been Quita and Lachelle, and I'm just being the other wonderful men here. But, you know, I always tell people, hey, tell me, good and bad and ugly, I want to know. because I'm trying to make it, push it up another latch, another level in what I do.
Awesome. I love that. And so I'm really glad to have you guys here today because, it's just a testament of, going out there and just reaching out. If you don't ask, the answer's always no. And just taking a chance and, asking for that interview or following up on that introduction. So I guess we're going to go around and give one networking tip because networking is something right now with virtual and, this whole thing of COVID. People are kind of intimidated sometimes about how they can network proficiently. So we're just going to go around and talk about one tip that we can give the audience who's watching about networking. And we're going to start with you, Barbara.
Let me go on the back way. I should have knew that. The one tip that I would give is that when you're networking, when you're meeting people, just don't look at it as a sale. Because I know a lot of us are in business, and a lot of times it's like, oh, I get to meet these people in this, group or whatever, and they be starting to count dollar signs already, like, oh, I can sell this person, what did they do? And that is not the beginning reason why networking is to create and build relationships, and you never know where those relationships are going to go. I mean, right now there's people on this panel, and hopefully I get to, network more with JR and Paul, is that we have a friendship. Behind everything else, we have a friendship, and I feel like when you build those relationships, that gets to the point where you have the person's back. Now it's like, you know what, if I see something, you going down the wrong road or whatever in your business, now I'm here for you because I met with you, I talked to you, we build a relationship, I want to see you grow, you want to see me grow, so we come together and then we're there for each other, not just for, okay, can you buy my product and I'll buy yours. Now, I don't want to sit there and say it shouldn't be in your mind somewhere. I mean, you do have that opportunity, but learn how to build those relationships because those are much more deeper and more important than just a sale.
I love that. And our special guest is joined us. So we will hold off on those last 3 networking tips, and we are going to bring Dr. Ivan Misner on with us really briefly before we start his interview. We want to say hello, Dr. Misner. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Oh, listen, it's my pleasure, and please call me Ivan.
Oh, so we have a few panelists that we're talking about some networking tips. We are going to go right into your interview. We are going to have them go backstage briefly while we do our interview, and we will follow up with a few questions from them after we conclude, okay?
Sounds great.
Awesome. So I'm learning how to do all this. I tell you one thing about the computer, it's like it can be your best friend or your worst enemy.
Yes, it can. There's no doubt about that.
Well, I first want to say Happy New Year to you, and thank you so much for gracing me again with your acquaintance to do an interview. So
it's absolutely my pleasure. Thanks for inviting me.
So, we are going to dive right into some of these networking tips because right now, so many people are restructuring, reinventing themselves. I mean, we know you're connected with the send out cards. We now just have greener steel. So, we've gone through this whole transformation. So with people doing that, what are some key things that they should be mindful of when it comes to networking and building, their target audience and expanding on it?
Yeah, and you mentioned Send Out Cards. I love Send Out Cards. It's a great organization. I'm a client. I'm not a distributor, but I am a client, and it's a fantastic product to help stay connected with people. So your question is, how do people stay connected? Especially, I'm guessing via the COVID situation that we're in. So a couple of things. First of all, I really believe that today more than ever, you need your network. You need the people that you have a relationship with, the people that you have a connection with, to help you get through difficult times. And I really believe that hope is more powerful than fear. And that you start with that hope, then you create a plan and you take action. And that plan needs to be to activate your network. And the action needs to be to connect with those people and have conversations. Now, one of the things I teach is, it's really the foundation of what I teach, is what I call the VCP process: visibility, credibility, profitability. So the way that works is that you have to be visible. People have to know who you are and what you do. Then you have to get to credibility, where people know who you are, they know what you do, they know you're good at it, they trust you. And then and only then can you get to profitability, where you're actually passing referrals and business back and forth. Now, here's the thing about your question about connecting with people today. Normally, I would kind of reverse it and say, start with the people that you really don't have visibility with and move to credit. Right now, you got to, I think, flip that. So the first thing you should do is connect with all the people that you're at profitability with. People that you have a good relationship with, you want to continue that good relationship. You want to find out how they're doing. So do a Zoom or online Skype one-to-one with them and go deep. Find out how they're doing and be there for them, help them, give them advice, give them referrals if possible. Then move backwards to the people that you're at credibility with. Because these are people that you have a good relationship with, but you're maybe not passing referrals back and forth. And again, find out how they're doing, how you can help them. And then finally, start to transition to the people that you're at visibility with. You kind of know them, but you don't have a really deep relationship. You go through that entire list in reverse order: profitability, credibility, and then back to visibility. You got a lot of work to do ahead of you. That's going to take you months to get through.
So true. And, and you bring up a good point of going through that list of people. What are some things that we could do that can help us be successful with that? Because you have so many people that, they miss the income producing activities. It's just something that, they have one day, they are, a gung ho, they're talking to 10 people or 20 people, in meaningful conversation. And then the next couple of days, they're not talking to anybody. So what is a way that we can be consistent with that?
Well, I think right now, the biggest problem in the past was that people said, I don't have time to network. Well, you got a lot of time right now. So now's the time to be activating that network and working that network. We have found, we did a study in Europe in a region of BNI, and we found that the people who do 4 one-to-ones a month, that's just one a week. Mm-hmm. Frankly, right now, you should be doing way more than that. But, and this was before COVID, people who did 4 one-to-ones a month versus people who did only 1 one-to-one a month, where you sit down and have a conversation with them, passed twice as many referrals. So if you just do 1 one-to-one a month versus 4 a month, you're going to pass twice as many referrals. But here's the beautiful thing about this, is that they also received twice as many referrals. So they gave twice as many, they received twice as many, and all they did different was do a one-to-one every week instead of once a month. And when you're doing those one-to-ones, it's important to go deep and to talk to them and to support them, like I've been saying. And that means, give them ideas. I mean, I've seen some amazing things happen. I've seen people make a pivot during this crazy COVID time in the business they did. Let me give you an example. Mm-hmm. Furniture reupholsterer in California. When COVID hit, she was in a business that was not exactly an essential business, right? Reupholstering furniture. She had to lay off all of her employees. In a one-to-one with somebody, they said, well, you have to think back. This is like March of 2020. They said, you have a lot of cloth, don't you? And she said, I literally have tons of cloth. He said, have you thought about making masks? And she was like, no, I hadn't thought of that. He said, you should try it. And so she sat down and did 100. She produced 100 masks on her own. And she gave away 2 to everyone in her BNI group and then other friends and associates she had. She gave 2. She said, one of these, and 2 of them and her card. And she said, one of these are for you. Would you do me a favor? And would you give the other one to a healthcare worker, a doctor, a nurse, somebody at a senior center, and give it to them along with my card and tell them I am making masks. She got bombarded. Now remember, this is March when masks were in short supply. She was just inundated with orders for masks. She was able to hire back every single employee, physically distance them in the plant. And she pivoted from being a furniture reupholsterer to a mask manufacturer. These are the kinds of things that can happen when you activate your network.
I love that. And, one of the things that comes up, we have a lot of people that have this imposter syndrome, so to speak.
Yeah.
And so I love the element of being able to talk to your network and telling them transparently, what is actually going on. So what advice would you give somebody about a way to do that? Because, in so many aspects, it's like, oh, I want to be professional or I want to look successful. So how do you have those hard conversations that, things aren't going well?
Yeah, so people aren't going to share that unless they're really, really close. They're not going to share that right away.
Mm-hmm.
There's a concept called semantic differential questioning, which sounds complicated, but it's kind of easy to understand. And that is, do you basically ask the same question in 3 different ways over an extended period of time? So, you don't do it back to back, but, because then they see it, but you might just say, so how you doing? And, they're going to do, like you said, oh, well, things are okay. I'm trying to get through. I'm doing this and this. And you continue the conversation. And then you got to say a second time and change it up just a little bit. And are things working out okay for you? And then later later in the conversation, come back to maybe a variation of the first question. So really, how are you really doing? And it's amazing that if you ask the same question, I've done this so many times, spread out over a little period of time and ask it in a slightly different way, people, once they feel comfortable, will often open up more. And when they open up, that's when you have a chance to really go deep and help somebody. And I saw this done with a woman, 2 BNI members, and the one woman, gentleman did this with her, and she was like, oh, things are really bad, really seriously bad. And this was before COVID. They were meeting in person. And she said, I really, and I don't want to share this with everybody, but I really feel like I may have to close my business down at the end of the month. I got maybe 1 more month. And he said, you gotta tell the chapter this. They need to know, because you're really good at what you do. We don't want to lose you. She said, I can't do that. I'd be embarrassed. And he said, I get that. Can I say something for you? And I'll be gentle, I promise. And she said, really? You would do that? And he said, yeah, I would. I'd be happy to. And he did. He stood up and he said, look, I've had a conversation with so-and-so, and she's really struggling right now. She could really use our help because she's not sure that she's going to make it another month. And she's a great member and we don't want to lose her. And I'm telling you, this chapter just encircled her, not only emotionally, but also with referrals. People who really, it wasn't top of mind for them. And now when they realize a friend might go under, that really focused everyone's attention. She got so much business, she was able to stay open another month and then another month. And then she was, after 3 or 4 months, the business was really coming in, and she stayed. And she stayed because she ended up being honest. And she ended up being honest because this gentleman used that technique, it's called semantic differential questioning.
I love that. And so, we're going to you being the founder of BNI. I mean, what an organization, and what you have accomplished over the years of having that organization. So it takes a different mindset. This is not somebody who is doing what everybody else is doing in order to come up with such a concept. So a trailblazer. So what do you do that kind of keeps you in that mindset? And even just being able to transition from live meetings to virtual and doing it quickly and all the things that you've accomplished, it's about the mindset. So what is it that you do that keeps you in that frame of mind for change?
Well, listen, I think you're right. It is a mindset. And that's where I started, was hope is more powerful than fear. And then you have to take action. I like the word attraction, but the word action is part of the word attraction. And so you can attract all this, but then you have to take action. And I think it begins with the right mindset. And that right mindset is to help other people. And by helping enough people, they are going to, in turn, help you. And I think that's just really incredibly important. The other thing I think is important, and this is maybe in normal times, not in times like this, is that you have to really recognize that it's about giving to people. Givers gain is our principal core value, and givers gain is more than a phrase. It's a way of living one's life. It's a perspective to view and interact with the world. It's an attitude, not an expectation. And when it's applied properly, it will change your life. And when it changes enough lives, it'll change the world. And that concept and your network is a beacon of light in a sea of fear, because we are living in fearful times for so many reasons. And I just think your network can make all the difference in the world. And I recognized that 36 years ago when I started BNI, because I needed help with my consulting business. And people were willing to help. But what I didn't understand was that nobody really knows how to network, and that we were kind of all method acting our way through the process, thinking that networking was about face-to-face cold calling. And that's not what it's about. I heard you talking a little bit about that before you brought me on. And you're right. It is really about, don't constantly try to sell to people. It's about building relationships with people, in my opinion. Here's my definition of networking. It's the process of developing and using your contacts to increase your business, enhance your knowledge, expand your sphere of influence, and or serve the community. That's what networking should be. There's no sales in there, by the way. Did you hear the word sales? It's not in there. But sales happens when you do that.
I love that. And so, the fortune is in the follow-up. We hear about that.
Yeah.
So we've got a system that gets us the referrals. We've built a community. So what are some things that we kind of mess up when it comes to our follow-up? We'll start there and figure out how we can.
That's a great question. I love it. I love it. So in a couple of my books, I talk about what I call the 24/7/30 follow-up system. 24/7/30. So when you meet somebody, especially when we're released from, I like to call this, I think attitude is everything, like you were saying. I like to call this, I don't like calling it quarantine. I don't like calling it lockdown. This is the great pause. Our world has been put on pause. And I think it's a better way to look at it. So when we're released from the great pause, when we have the great release, and we go back to meeting people, I think it's really important that when you meet somebody, that within 24 hours, you reconnect with them. Within 24 hours, 24/7/30. Within 24 hours, you reconnect with them. And, drop them a note, send them an email. You mentioned send-out cards. I'm not sure why, but you mentioned them. And I love send-out cards because it's a great way to send a note.
Right.
Right? Because my handwriting is really bad. I mean, it's really bad. So it's embarrassingly bad. So, and email's not as personal. So send a note, handwritten note, or a send-out card note. And here's what you say. It was really nice meeting you last night. I enjoyed our conversation about X, whatever you spoke about. I like to take notes after I've met people. Generally on the back of their card. However, if you are networking in Asia, don't do that. It's impolite. Use a notepad. It's very impolite to write on the back of someone's card, particularly in Japan and China. Just a side note. So you send them a card, and whenever you do, don't sell to them. Don't say, hey, it was really nice to meet you. By the way, I sell X and you should buy it. Don't do that. Okay. So within 7 days, reach out to them on social media. Find out what social media they're on. That's one of the questions you could be asking, actually. What's your preferred social media platform? Do you like LinkedIn, WhatsApp, Facebook? And find that out, write that down. And then reach out to them. Now, I'll tell you a true story. I learned this from my kids. When my eldest, she's now 34, when she was 17, she was 17, okay? Aliens come down and take your kid.
That's invasion of the body snatchers. I know what you're talking about.
Gosh, that's so true. When my daughter was 17, she once said to me, Dad, you're not only not with it, you're not even near it. I'm like, okay, that's all right. You still have to be home at 10 o'clock. I don't care. So
you got to have thick skin. That's for sure.
Yes. Mm-hmm. So anyway, I would call her and she wouldn't respond. But if I texted her, boom, she'd respond right now. So I'm like, okay, I got to text her. So then my second daughter, if I called her, nothing. If I texted her, nothing. And I asked my late wife, I asked her, how do I connect with Dorian? She's not responding to texts or phone calls. And she said, well, you have to remember, now she's 28. She was 17, so it was 11 years ago. She said, well, you have to WhatsApp her. I said, what's WhatsApp? I don't even know what that is. So I downloaded WhatsApp because if I called her, nothing, texted her, nothing. But if I WhatsApp her, she'd respond. I spoke to her once and I said, this device you have is a phone. You can actually speak into it, right? So it was a lost cause. But she would respond. Yeah. Then came my son. He was a gamer. He didn't like phone calls or texts. He didn't like WhatsApp. But I found out he used Steam, which is an online gaming platform, which has an instant messaging feature. I was like in my early 50s and I downloaded a Steam game so that I could instant message my son and he'd respond immediately. Yeah, what's up, Dad? What do you want? And so here's the thing. And this is how it applies to the 24/7. Within 7 days, connect with them on social media, but go where they are. Not where you like to be. Okay. So for those listening, I'm on most all the platforms, but I'm probably a little more active on Facebook. So my public Facebook page, I've got 170,000 followers there, and and I put out lots of educational content. So find out where they go, and then connect with them. You want to respond to some post, comment on it. So that they see you and they start to get to know who you are. You're now creating some visibility. The third thing is that within 30 days, reach out to them. And by the way, on social media, don't sell to them. Don't do that. Then within 30 days, connect with them and ask to do a one-to-one. I love one-to-ones because that's where you really go deep to build a potential relationship. And you reach out to them and say, hey, look, I'd like to get together. After COVID, when it's safe. Now, it might be by Zoom right now. I'd like to get together. I want to learn more about what you do. And maybe you'd like to learn a little bit about what I do. To me, this is what is valuable with networking. And you pass that on to them. And then you meet with them. And again, don't sell to them. Even then, don't sell to them. If they need your product or service, they'll let you know. But even a blind squirrel can find a nut. You'll stumble over business. The question is, who can you meet that you can build a relationship with that they will refer you? That is what I think makes a good follow-up system.
I love that. And, we have Matthew Silverman. He's saying, does this qualify as continued education?
Absolutely. You tell your director that this is a CEU. We give CEUs. So
yeah.
You play this recording back for him and you say, I said so. It is a CEU. One of our core values is lifelong learning. And we want our members, and we think everybody should immerse and engage in a culture of learning how to do this better.
Mm-hmm. I love that. And so, and I just want to bring up the fact that, you really are on social media, because I just was able to reach out to you through Messenger. I think that's important to highlight. We have so many people that have social media managers and all this. Not to say that, there's some platforms that, it can be a little overwhelming. So
Listen, I got a guy, so he helps immensely. But on the messages, I try whenever possible to respond personally.
yeah. And I mean, I think that's, sometimes we can get so big that, we can miss some of these things. And I mean, I get it. I mean, you're talking about how many people you have in your network.
276,000 members.
I am so lucky that I was able to make it through all those messages. So I just really appreciate you.
I am lucky that you reached out to me.
Yes. So I think that's another thing, is not being afraid to ask, right? Because if you don't ask, the answer is always no.
Yes. And make sure that you're asking for something that is appropriate. In other words, asking for a sale before there's a relationship, asking for, hey, buy my product before there's any kind of relationship, then you're asking too early. But what you did is really the opposite of that, because I'm looking, I want referrals for interviews. I want to do interviews. I'm now sort of the Colonel Sanders of BNI, I'm the spokesperson for BNI. And so you were doing the opposite of that. I'd like to have you on my show. And that's different. And so then, be brave, step up.
Love that. So the last question I would ask is, for somebody out there who has that vision for writing that book or doing something different, that's not conventional or traditional, what advice would you give them?
That's a fantastic question. And I read something today. I wonder if I can find it real quick. I read something today that I just thought was so incredibly powerful. I'm looking it up. Here we go. A friend of mine sent this to me. It says, the devil whispered in my ear, you're not strong enough to withstand the storm. Today, I whispered in the devil's ear, I am the storm.
Love that.
I love it. I am the storm. I think it's important to recognize that listen, everybody's got a little imposter syndrome. You think I haven't had that in my past? Trust me, I have. And so it's very important to move past that and to do the things that you're excited about. I believe that an entrepreneur is either working in their flame or working in their wax. And when they're in their flame, they're on fire, they're excited, they love what they do. You can see it in the way they act, you can hear it in their voice. When they're working in their wax, it's taking all their energy away. You can see that in the way they behave, you can hear that in their voice. The key is to find your flame, be excited about it, and then go out and do that flame. And just remember that networking is more about farming than it is about hunting, that it's about cultivating relationships as you do that flame.
Love that. Great advice. I mean, we see that you are definitely walking the talk that you're saying, and I just love being in your presence, some great nuggets of wisdom. So we want to thank you so much for gracing us with your presence today. And this will conclude the interview portion of our segment. And we will have our panel come back and have a few private Q&As with Dr. Misner. And any final words that you want to say outside of that? I think that was great.
Well, thank you very much. And again, I appreciate it. I think, the old saying, it's not what you know, it's who you know. Mm-hmm. I don't think it's either. I don't think it's what you know or who you know. It's how well you know each other that really makes a difference. It's having that connection and that relationship that makes all the difference in the world. So go deep, build relationships, and your network will be incredibly powerful.
Love that. Well, we want to thank you guys so much for watching. Feel free to add any comments in the comments section of this interview. And you guys take notes and implement the things that Dr. Misner said. Don't just write a whole bunch of stuff down and repeat it to other people, but take action, as he said, so that you can begin to build that business the way that you want it to be. So again, we want to thank you all for watching, and we will see you on the next episode. Bye for now.